the DCR land.
Yes.
And the restriction expires in 2040.
Who here is from Warren? Who lives on Warren? Who lives on Glen? Elgin? Westminster or thereabouts? Great. And Maddox Street or Carlisle? Great. So any streets I forgot?
Knoll Street across the other side of
Wonderful. Thank you for coming.
There's a whole universe of people with, often with canine accompaniment, who come from all over the city.
Well, that's the most important point. Yes?
Beacon west of Center.
Thank you. So Beacon west of Center. You're a pioneer. What's most important for this? There are several things, but that this not exclusively be an Elgin Street or Warren Street, not exclusively be an issue or known as an issue for the immediate residents, but that this be known as an issue that concerns all of Newton. Dog walkers, people who come here regularly, people who come here occasionally. We all have an interest in preserving the largest forest. I'm not going to go through the sort of specifics here. Our main objective today is for everybody to get a feel for it. What we have to do almost every day thereafter until this issue is resolved is make sure that we are letting the mayor know how many people are concerned and want to see not just good feelings but assertive action by the city to protect these woods irrespective of the owner, whether a sale goes through, the sale doesn't go through, using whatever means necessary. I've told the mayor, and I think many of you have, we, I believe, should remain agnostic to the particular remedy, whether it be a conservation easement or restriction on the undeveloped portion of the land, or shoot for the moon, full purchase of the land and reuse for city purposes. We should, I feel, should not specifically dictate what it is, but leave the mayor, the city, and the alderman flexibility to find any solution that can be had with whatever combination of funds, public and private, we can bring to bear. But first, there is a presentation. Are you willing to do it, Sasha? Can you come here? Sasha Koval, are you interested in the woods?
Yes!
And can you show us where you live?
Right there!
Okay, so if you'll indulge just for a second, Sasha, what do you have to tell us?
Your sister.
Hello, my name is Sasha, and I'm here to save the Webster Woods. Apparently, the Webster Woods, part of the Webster Woods is sold to Boston College. And I'm 7 years old, and I have a lot of fun playing in the woods. And Boston College will probably, if Boston College builds storms, they'll probably need to build a road. And it will make it unsafe for me to play. And also, if every night I'll hear inappropriate music before I go to bed. I hope we can all save the Webster Woods. Thank you.
I'm Marion Louderback with my husband Terry. We moved here in 1974, and we were able to buy a house here, not making much money. In 1974, we bought our house for $42,000, our Victorian there. And my kids were raised going in the woods, playing in the woods, climbing the caves. My son's 5-year-old birthday party was held at the caves. We see people rock climbing, rappelling. My son would take our kids into the woods to watch the trains. There's a special place called the Sofa Rock where he used to take them. And Nora, my daughter Tina and Nora would go into the woods and they'd make up stories and come back and share their stories. They have all these wonderful stories that they've written that has stimulated their imagination for the woods. We used to go in there cross-country skiing with our kids. We used to skate on the Vernal Pond. And the thing is, what was wonderful is I never saw many people in the woods. It was very interesting. It was almost like we had it to ourselves. And also in the spring, all these wildflowers come up, and I know exactly where they are. The lady slippers, there's a whole walk with lady slippers coming up, and other jack of the pulpits, and all these little vernal pools. So it was a very, very important experience for my children. And when my daughter is married and living in Hopkinton now, and when she comes here to visit, the first thing she does, she takes a walk into the woods. So it's a wonderful refuge from the digital world, I should say, to reconnect to the natural world. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. All right. So I feel like we should go without many more speeches. I'll say this: there are a lot of people here who are working on different avenues to try and preserve the woods. Jeff Goldman is talking to the congregation. A lot of action from the Newton Conservators and Beth Wilkinson and others. I think all constructive methods are welcome. Nobody needs to coordinate with anybody else. I suggest you all write the mayor, visit the mayor, call the mayor's office. It is the mayor that needs to be the focal point for our actions, and he will not act assertively unless he hears from you, all your friends, people who live all over Newton, not exclusively this neighborhood, that this is of interest to us, and we would rather not see dormitories, football stadium, parking throughout the entire property. We would like to preserve the undeveloped portion of the property. So, Betsy.
Is there a timeline by which they'll make a decision?
There is an opportunity to try and influence this before a sale, whenever that may be, probably in the next month. And there are opportunities beyond the sale. And we should not, if the sale goes through, we got to deal with that action between two private parties. What's important is that the buyer, any prospective buyer, and the seller understand our interests and understand how much we care and how hard we're willing to work. Jeff.
Thank you. Just to reiterate a couple things. I'm Jeff Goldman. I live in the greenhouse over there. And like everybody else here, I'm very concerned about the woods. I'm offering up a lot of money. I'm also getting the Trust for Public Land involved to raise money for this. And I also want to thank Alderman Baker and Danberg and I don't know the other aldermen that might be here today. But in addition to what Rory was saying, which is a great thing to contact the mayor, because he's heard enough from me, he's kind of sick of me. But I want to encourage you all, if you know anybody at Mishkan Tefila, to let them know about this, because I'd like to work with Mishkan Tefila. They have an event, Rory has a handout on it, next Thursday night, and if you're interested and you're available and you can go, it's an opportunity for us as a neighborhood and a community to talk to members of the Mishkan Tefila congregation. From what I understand, they have a vote coming up on October 18th to approve the sale, and if we can let them know that there's other avenues that they can pursue other than just shut down, because I'd like to see us, between funds that I'm raising in the neighborhood, Trust for Public Land and the city's CPA funds, if we can get them to realize that there's an alternative for them, not just to sell the property, that perhaps we can get them the money that they need through a conservation easement or a conservation restriction to hold on to the land and build, and we will be able to give them the money to build a new energy efficient building. They don't have to move. And they have an optimal site, and I think that would be the best for everybody. It's a win for them, it's a win for us. Personally, I'd like to not see the sale go through. I think nobody here really wants to see it. I'd much rather deal with Mishkan Tefila before it goes on to Boston College, because dealing with Boston College is going to be much more difficult than dealing with Mishkan Tefila. And if the congregation votes it down, we can sit back and then we can come up with the money, and I'm, like I said, I am offering a lot of money, but if the neighborhood can offer a lot of money, and then that will leverage, hopefully, the CPA, which Lyle and Vicki know a lot more about than I do. And then, like I said, we've also got the Trust for Public Land, which is I've had the state director come through and walk, and they think it's a very viable project to raise funds for. If we can raise the money that they need to build a new building, and if they realize it, I think they'll vote down the sale.
So there are lots of avenues to success. One of them is through the woods. Let's take a walk. Thank you all.
Explain where we are. Okay.
So we're on city land. I believe we're on a platted road, actually, but it's obviously undeveloped. And as we get to this intersection up here, we're basically going to hit the the congregation Mishkan Tefila land, just right over here. We just crossed over onto Mishkan Tefila land right now. So
Really? It's just the beginning?
This road, if if you look at it, to the best of our understanding, weaves back and forth over the line.
Wow.
This is basically the congregation's land.
Really? It
Yes.
extends in this far.
All dorms could be right here next to
lovely.
No, I mean literally, this is
This
it.
is where we spent our life walking in here, cross-country skiing, right here.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How did something end up on the open space plan, but no action taken? I mean, that's
Oh, that's a favorite move.
yeah.
No action necessary.
Hey Josh, do you want to? Where do we turn right? Okay. People up when we're firmly on congregation land, yet it feels like we're just in the forest.
Yeah, open beach in here, huh?
What's that?
In 1 minute you can do that.
We need a rock or a perch. Jeremy, maybe you can gather people as they approach. I just want to tell people when everybody else gets here where we are. Come a little closer if you can. This is too big a rock, Josh. It feels like you're in the forest, in the woods now. In fact, you're on congregation Mishkan Tefila land. You're actually about in the middle of it now. If BC owned the land, or quite frankly, any developer that was able to wiggle around the restrictions, but BC doesn't have to, the restrictions don't apply to them. They,
Not true. Conservation applies to any owner. Not true.
okay.
The restrictions from the Conservation Commission, regardless of who owns it, whether they're
Right.
college or not, would apply.
But the point is, Ruth Ann, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is BC would be able to, with the exception of the wetland areas, for the most part, develop the entirety of the property.
Yeah, any owner could do that. But I just want to make sure that people understand that the Conservation Commission does have rights that would apply to any owner,
Got it.
including BC.
But only for a limited amount of land.
But the Dover Amendment gives the college greater power to do things than other landowners.
Okay, well, that was my understanding, Lyle. Thank you for clarifying, and Ruth Ann as well. So the concern here is that a lot of this property, a substantial portion of it could be developed. Now, one scenario to think about is college dorms, and BC has a need for college dorms. They've got people who attend the main campus in dorms in Newton Center at the law school, and this would be a much closer location for dorms to the main campus. It would create the fastest path from here, as Josh Koval continues to point out to me, would be through the woods, fine, across Hammond Pond Parkway through the woods and right through the Chestnut Hill area. So irrespective of that, this would completely, if it were developed in its entirety, completely bisect the woods. That portion of the woods on the other side of that road would remain woods. If you go another 200-300 feet, 400 feet that way, the state portion would remain woods, but the entire center portion, roughly, I'm guessing about 40% of the contiguous area of the woods on this side of the train tracks would be developed. And
Dagger into the continuity of the conservation.
yeah.
Dividing it into
So instead of being here and barely hearing the traffic or noise, you'd end up in that piece of woods or that piece of woods, surrounded basically by buildings and development within sight or within earshot. This is the largest forest in Newton by a long shot. It's the only one that's centrally located within Newton. It's the one that probably has the most use, because the only other one that even comes close is a narrow strip of Cutler Park that borders Newton way south near Wells Avenue, and that is not in a residential area, not easily, comfortably accessible to a lot of people, doesn't have trains and doesn't have trails and is not used to a great extent.
Cutler Park? It's very well used.
The Newton portion of it,
Okay.
if you look at the Newton portion, is basically it's the second largest forest in Newton, and my point is the Newton portion is basically a tiny strip on the edge of parking lots. It's not a big contiguous area like this, the Newton portion. This is the most centralized piece of forest that we have.
But there's one park that's used a lot, is Cold Spring Park. That is probably the most used park, okay?
Right.
Cold Spring Park.
A fraction of this size.
Yes. But that's where most people go if they want to go walking.
Yeah.
They go to Cold Spring Park with their dogs. There's a dog walking park and all of that. You know?
I'd like to offer, if you compare Cold Spring to Webster, the land is completely different. The beautiful thing about Webster to me is you have the hills, you've got the caves, you've got the rocks. Cold Spring, very nice, but relatively flat. It doesn't have the variation you get here.
But it's easier for people to walk.
Yep.
It is
So,
easier.
Marianne,
This is difficult.
Marianne, could you lead us to the pond?
So the vernal pool fills up every year and starts chiming with spring peepers. And then
You're taking pictures.
in the spring, this is a video actually. If you have something to
Are you the vernal
talk
pool
about
expert?
the vernal pool.
Yeah, my kids we used to bring them here to ice skate.
Wow.
Oh really?
So you've heard my speech, yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
No, I didn't know
And it was
that
great
ice
because a
skating.
lot of people didn't use it. Yes, we would bring them here to ice skate in the winter. We took them for parties, birthday parties at the caves. But look at this. This is scary. It's completely dried up.
Well, this is just the drought we're having right now.
I know,
We're
but that's the
behind.
point. It
So
used to
it-
have fish and
No, well, it dries up every year.
This time of year, though?
It gets
Cycles this way.
But this is a very bad drought we've had.
Yes, yes.
But
One
no,
of the
you'd
worst.
expect it to fill up during the spring melt as the snow melts.
Well, in the winter it's
Oh,
full.
okay. Oh, okay.
There's ice on it.
Well, when you've been here in what, like December or January, have you come over here and seen it?
Yes.
And what's it like? How?
Well, it depends. When you get snow, then
Yeah.
it's very
So that's
So you can walk across it. You can skate
so
if you
that's
wanted
the
to clean
lowest
it.
spot right there.
Yeah, so the water gets up above, like it goes in the channel, so that like at least it's 2 feet up on the rock.
yeah up onto that rock there.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah, pretty
ducks in here usually
Yeah.
in the summer.
There's no drainage from this location. So all the water, so where you're standing here, you're in about 2.5 feet of water, okay, at the right season of the year, okay? And it looks kind of lifeless at the moment, but I actually once dug up a piece of this ground here and put it into an aquarium, added water, and boom, it came alive. There's all this stuff in the ground here, little fairy shrimp, all kinds of insects, all kinds of plant things. There's a whole like ecology, ecosystem waiting to wake up as soon as it gets wet again. Okay, but there aren't a lot of larger things that can't survive this kind of seasonal nature of it. So it's vernal because that means spring. Right?
All right, so this here is Newton's largest forest. It's accessible by Hammond Pond Parkway and from a series of streets on this end. And the area in green that I'm tracing is the congregation Mishkan Tefila land. Now, for reference, they access their property from Hammond Pond Parkway. This is their building over here and parking lot. And this is a back parking lot that they've paved. They've established this for use by hospital staff from Longwood.
Okay.
And it's used as a remote parking lot with shuttle service down to the Longwood area. For the most part, this property is undeveloped. This whole section here and this section is undeveloped forest, and it operates, practically speaking, as part of the larger Webster Woods or Hammond Pond Woods. The issue is that this property is being sold, likely to Boston College as we understand it, and even with the wetlands over here, it really is part of the larger forest. If it were fully developed, which is a plan that we've seen as a potential, it would bisect the woods in two, and we wouldn't have this nice large contiguous piece. And no matter where you were, you'd be close to a road and close to buildings, and you would not have the serenity of the space as it exists today.
And where did we go on the walk?
So on the walk, we started up at Elgin Street here, and we walked down into the woods. Then we walked here. We actually were on the Mishkan Tefila land, tracing the edge of the land along this utility easement. Then from about this point here, we went in and up and around to Bear Pond, which is, or the vernal pond as some people call it, which is here. And from there, we walked all the way down back to this little trail, and then we walked to the caves. The caves are around here.
Which I missed because I got lost in the woods.
I'm sorry to hear that. From the caves, most people, but not all, went to the train tracks around, which is around here. It's
And I
off
saw
the map.
that. Right.
And then they walked back along this path and up to Elgin Street.
My parents-in-law who lived here, I think in the 1950s and 60s, they also pushed to try to save the Vale here. And there is a green button that I still have, which is in my house from my parents-in-law, which says Save the Vale. And today we are here at it again once more.
Trying to save it again or
Yes,
resave it.
Yes, and there were Shirley and Saul Premack.